Hello, Prosperivarians. The best school has come to stay in the city of Calabar. It is called Beryl International School.
Take advantage of this opportunity now.
Tell me the best school, Beryl is the best. Tell me the best school.
Of ss1 class. This is data communication class for ss1 students. I hope you are doing well and you are staying safe. The topic of today says basic computer concepts. Basic computer concepts. When we talk about basic computer concepts, we're talking about the preliminary things, the basic things that come into play in the operations of computer. So what are those basic things that are considered in computer operation? First of all, you will agree with me that the first thing you do in the operation of your computer is to power on. Okay? So when we talk about basic computer concepts, we talk about the booting process of the computer. So we are going to look at what booting is, types of booting, how the booting process takes place, and the activities that goes on in the computer during the time when the computer is booting. Alright, before we go into all of that, we first of all ask ourselves what booting is. What is booting? Booting, we say, is the process of starting a computer. Booting is the process of starting a computer. I know all of you, there is nobody in that class that has not booted a computer system before. We have all booted computer systems during our practicals. But what is going to be interesting about this class is I'm going to be opening your eyes to the things that happen behind the scene, the things that happen in the computer during the process of booting. Alright, let me put down the definition of booting. Alright, that has been established. Booting is the process of starting a computer. Now, what are those activities, what are those actions that go on inside the computer system while it is booting? Now, you accept with me that booting starts immediately you switch on the computer system from the power button. Immediately you switch on the computer system from the power button, booting begins. Now, you accept with me that what makes booting different from switching on the television system is that immediately the television system is powered up, automatically it comes on. But in the computer system, it's not like that. When the power button is switched on, you see that the computer goes through a series of operations. You see it turning round. What is happening in the system? We're going to discuss all of that. So that is the process where we say booting is taking place. Now, what are those actions that are taking place during when you see that little circle turning around in the system while the system is booting? Now, before now, we have done some other lessons where we've talked about the memories of the system. We've talked about the volatile and the non-volatile memories, and we say that the RAM is volatile while the ROM is a non-volatile memory. And I also bring to you that the RAM is the memory of the system through which you work. When you are working in a system, the data you work with, it's being fed to you from the RAM of the system. And it is this same RAM that we say that is volatile. What do we mean by when we say that the RAM is volatile? It means that whenever the system is shut down, the RAM loses all its memory. Everything that has been fed into the RAM of the system goes away. But it is still in the ROM. It doesn't mean that it's missing from the system. But it goes away from the RAM. Now, when you put on your system from the switch on button, that is the power button, what happens is that the operating system is now loaded back from the ROM of the system into the RAM. Because remember, it is the RAM you are going to be working with. It is the RAM that feeds you information for you to work with while you are processing data. So it is now fed back into the RAM of the system so that you will now be able to work with it finally. So the process, you see that the system is trying to boot, you see that little circle turning round. The operating system of of that particular computer is being fed back into the RAM. Your files, your data, everything is being fed back into the RAM to bring it to the level at which you left it, so that you can now continue working from there. That is why when the system finishes booting, you will now see that it is now brought back to the desktop, and you see most of your files, your folders, your documents are just the way you left them the previous time you used the system. So that is the activities that goes on behind the system while the system is booting. Alright, having established that, we'll now go further to discuss the types of booting that we have. I would like you to know that we have two types of booting. We have two types of booting. We have two types of booting. Number one, we have the cold booting. And number two, we have the warm booting. We have two types of booting. One is the cold booting and two is the warm booting. We take each of them one after the other. We look at what the cold booting is and what the warm booting is. What does it mean when somebody says the system went through cold booting? Now, cold booting is starting the computer afresh. Starting the computer afresh. Cold booting is starting the computer afresh. While warm booting is restarting the computer. Cold booting means starting the computer system afresh, and warm booting is restarting the computer. Starting the computer afresh means onning the system from the power button. You used your system yesterday, you shut it down at the end of the day, you went home, you came back today, you want to use this, you power it on from the power button. You have what? Done cold booting. You have started the system afresh.
Action start.
Alright, I've said that cold booting means starting the computer afresh, and we've established that starting a computer afresh means powering the computer from the power button, putting on the system from the power button. That is what cold booting is. Let's do a little exercise to show how cold booting is being done. We're going to power on one of our systems and see how it boots. Now, I'm going to on this system by pressing the power button. That's the power button on the system unit that has been put on. So we're going to wait for the system to boot. You can see what I was trying to say. The system is trying to boot, it's trying to come on. You see, it's still trying to load. So the things that are going on in the system now is that the operating system of this system has just been loaded into the RAM of the system, and the system has booted itself and brought us to this desktop environment. That is cold booting. Okay, now warm booting, we have said here on the board that warm booting means restarting the computer. Warm booting means restarting the computer. That means when you are carrying on this warm booting, you don't need to power the computer from the power button. That means the computer has already been on. The computer has already been put on. That's why you see this name, warm booting. Of course, you agree with me that when a system is on and it's working, the parts of the system will become warm and hot. That is where this name came from. So the system has been working, its parts are already warm and hot. But because of one thing or the other, maybe you are trying to do something, it's not loading, or you are trying to load a particular file, it's taking time, so you need to restart the computer to see that it starts functioning well. That is when you carry out this warm booting. Let's try and see the steps that are involved in warm booting. So now I want to do a warm booting on this system. Maybe I have on it and I was working on a file and maybe the file is not loading the way I want it, or it's taking more time than supposed to. So I want to restart the computer to see how it functions better. I'm going to go to the start button. You have seen I went to the start button, I right clicked on it and this came on. I'm going to go to this shutdown or sign out, and you can see the options that have come here. You see one of the options here is restart. So I take this restart, I click on it, and you see what happened there. The system is restarting. That is what warm booting. By the end of this restarting, the system is still going to come back to the desktop environment where it was originally. So that is warm booting. Alright, having looked at the different types of booting, to be one, cold booting, two, warm booting, and we've looked at the processes or the steps that are involved in carrying out these two operations. We are going to look at some of the features or components of the Windows desktop. Some of the features or components of the Windows desktop. When I say desktop, that environment that your system, when it has finished booting, it brings you to that environment. That is what your desktop is. So we are going to look at those things. What are those things? What are the components? What are those things that you find in that desktop environment? Now, one of the things that you find in the desktop environment, you're going to see icons, you're going to see the taskbar, and you're going to see the background. Alright, let me take you to a system and still show you these three things that I have just discussed about. Alright, my system is still trying to restart. It's trying to get to the desktop environment. So we wait for it to finish booting and bring us back to where we were. Alright, you can see that the system has finished restarting and it has brought us to the same environment we were before. Now, this environment you are seeing here is the desktop environment of this system. Remember, we're talking about components of a desktop environment, components of a Windows desktop, components of a Windows desktop. So these are the components we have said. One is the icons. These are icons. All these things you are seeing here, icons are pictorial representations of either files, folders, softwares that are inside this system. All these files that you are seeing, folders and softwares that you are seeing here, these pictures are icons. They are representing either a folder, either a document, either a software that has been installed inside this system. So if I want to go to an environment like the Word environment, I can open one of these Word document files that are on the desktop and it will take me to where I want to go to. So remember, we have said that icons are pictorial representations of either folders, documents, or softwares that are in the system, and it is part of the components that you see in the Windows desktop. Alright, the second component we have said is the task bar. This is the task bar, this line you are seeing under here, that shows all the tasks that you are going to do. Whatever you are going to do would be lined here. If I open this document now, you see it showing under this place to show that I have whatever action I'm doing, whatever job I'm doing, you see it lining under here. This is the task bar. This is the task bar. So it is one of the things that you find in the desktop environment. Alright, the third one we have said that is the what? The background. The background sometimes is referred to as the wallpaper. What you see at the back of the screen. For example, in this particular system, we have decided to use one of our pictures that was taken during the cultural day of the school celebration to put as a background in this our system, so that it's actually showing that it's a buried system and it's showcasing one of our events. So this picture you are seeing behind here is the background of this system. Alright. so far we have discussed the basic computer concepts to be the booting, what booting is, and we have said that booting is the process of starting a computer. Booting is the process of starting a computer. And after discussing the definition of booting, we went further ahead to talk about the operations, the activities that go on behind the scene while the system is booting. And we have said that while the system is trying to boot, what happens is that the files, the operating system in that particular system is being loaded back into the RAM memory of the system before it is now brought into the workable environment, which is the desktop of that system. Having established that, we went further to talk about the types of booting, and we said that we have two types of booting. Number one, we have the cold booting, and number two, we have the warm booting. We have said that cold booting means starting the computer afresh. We've gone through the steps, we've shown the practical steps of how the computer is booted from the cold, in the cold way. And we have said that booting the computer system in the cold way is putting it on, powering it on from the power button. We went ahead to talk about warm booting, and we said that warm booting means restarting the computer. Warm booting means restarting the computer, and we've said that one of the things that makes systems to be restarted is probably you are working on a system, it's not giving you what you want, it's not loading your files very fast, so you need to restart it. And we've also gone through the steps to show how this warm booting is being carried on. So we went further to talk about components we talked about components of a Windows desktop, and we said that one of the components of a Windows desktop are the icons. We said the number two, we talked about the background, and number three, we talked about the task bar. We went through the practical aspects and we showed us all of it. We say icons are pictorial representations of either files, folders, softwares, documents that are in the system. I showed you all of that practically. And I also showed you the task bar in the system, where whatever action is going on in the system is run down below the system, and that is the task bar. I also showed you the background of the system, and I told you that another name for the background is the wallpaper. Alright, having discussed all of this, this brings us to the end of this topic, and I'm going to give you a little bit of assignment to do as you are at home. Number one question in my assignment here says, differentiate between the RAM and the ROM. I know that in the course of my lesson, I have mentioned them, I've discussed something about them. Before now, you have been taught about memories of the computer. You've heard about the RAM and the ROM. It's not a new thing. So what I want you to do is just differentiate between the two of them for me. And the second question says, why is the operating system loaded into the RAM during booting? That was also done in the course of this lesson. So I want to see that you actually paid attention to this lesson and you picked everything that was said. Alright, thank you very much for giving me attention and your time. See you in my next class.